Today, I'm gonna show y'all how to get better at guitar. I actually made an entire list of things to talk about this time, so I came prepared. I'm gonna hold my guitar just for the aesthetic. I'm not actually gonna play it or anything because I'm reading my list here. This video is things I wish I knew when I started guitar, or we could call it tips for beginners. I don't know, call it whatever you want, but basically this is just things that I've learned, and I take lessons, so like I've learned everything I know about guitar I've learned from my guitar teacher. You can take my word for it, but I think most of the stuff I have to say is like pretty good. So first thing is the most important thing. It's something I struggle with a lot. I don't know why. Okay, tip number 1, use a metronome. Like a metronome or a drum beat, a drum track, backing track, something to keep you in time and give you that sense of like pulse and beat. Metronome is the most important thing when you're practicing. I've said it a lot in my other videos because I am reminding myself, honestly, more than anyone. The reason I say it so much on here is because like I'm the one with the problem. But yeah, no, definitely practice with the metronome. And that goes for musicians in general. That's not just guitar players. That's literally everybody who plays an instrument or sings or like does music. So yeah, when you're out of rhythm or like time, basically, you already sound like shit. I know, because I've looked back at my old recordings of myself and I'm like, oh, that's horrible. Like, you probably saw my 1-year guitar progress video and you were like, dude, this girl does not play in time. And I agree with you. I don't. Or I didn't. Sometimes I still can't. Okay, tune every time you play and like learn how to tune. I knew how to tune because I played viola. I don't know if you can see it back there, but I played viola for like, well, I still play it. I've been a viola player probably like 6 years, and string instruments can be a pain to tune. So I don't know why I didn't tune my guitar every time, but then I realized I was completely out of tune. Before you start practicing, tune up. It will make you sound better. I know that was kind of an obvious tip, but that's just something I didn't do when I was a beginner, so maybe some other people are like that too. Okay, this one is an interesting tip, but it works. Practice in front of a mirror. This will help you like see your hand techniques and it will also help you like not look down all the time, because I know when you're a beginner, I do this all the time, so I'm always looking down. You kind of need to like take yourself out of that point of view and like look at it from another point of view. So practicing in front of a mirror is a great way to do that. You'll notice things about your playing that you didn't really notice or see before. My next tip is to play with other musicians. This is something that can be uncomfortable, especially when you're a beginner. I know when I like the first 6 months of playing guitar, I had a lot of musician friends, and they already were in the jazz combo, but like I asked if I could play with them because they didn't have a guitar player, so they said yes. And so I played with them, and I only knew, like I knew how to read chord changes and I knew my chord shapes. So I was kind of hanging on, but I knew that I was like the worst musician there. And that is completely okay. That is honestly probably a good thing, because that means you're gonna get a lot better. You're gaining experience. So don't be afraid if you are not as good as the other people that you're playing with. That's 100% fine. I'm actually really glad that I like put myself out there in that way. I definitely gained a lot of like experience and also knowledge on like, oh, I gotta work on that, like So it puts things into perspective, and also just like, it's fun. I definitely know the fear of like, and like the anxiety of like, oh, I'm not good enough, or like they're gonna judge me because I suck. But no, they're not. They're just gonna be like, they're gonna think you're like really cool for even trying. So inspiration for the day. And this one relates back to playing with other people, but I just wanted to add in, don't compare yourself to other people, because we're all beginners at some point, and we're all like on our own different paths, different points in skill level. Like when I started guitar, I would see people who were better than me, and I was like, I'm never gonna get there. But that's a really bad mentality, so do not think like that, because if you practice and like work at it, you will get there. And so yeah, just be aware of like your mindset, because I definitely had to change mine along the way. Listen to the music you want to play, because for me, like I said, I played viola before guitar. I was a classical music nerd. I listened to a lot of classical music. But then when I started taking jazz guitar lessons, I was like, what's jazz? Like, I never really listened to jazz, to be honest, until I started playing guitar. And the more I listen to it, the better I actually play, because like I know how it sounds. When I have to go improvise and stuff, I just have a better understanding of like what a jazz lick or improv would sound like. I don't know if that makes sense, but basically you just need to know what you're trying to play. I think the first step at getting good at jazz guitar, or whatever genre you're trying to play, blues, whatever, listen to that kind of music and you'll naturally improve. I feel like what I've learned the most from my guitar teacher is that like guitar books and teachers and like videos, they're not gonna have all the answers, and they're not just gonna be able to hand you everything, because, well, first of all, it's kind of lame. Like it's gonna be more fun and more meaningful if you find and discover things on the Woo! I cannot talk. It's gonna kind of give you like this sense of accomplishment and like exploration, because you're like, oh, I did that, like that's a thing, and then you figure it out and you're like, oh my god, that's super cool. Or you could have someone explain it to you and you're like, and then it goes like through one ear and out the other, and then it's just like, okay. And now I'm going to talk about things that you might want to learn if you're a beginner. So I touched on tuning, learn how to tune. That's obvious. You got to do it. You also need to learn how to change strings, because it's going to happen. You're going to need to change them at some point, and it's really not that hard. So learn how to change strings. Learn your chord shapes. Learn the name of the chord shape, and learn the voicing of the chord. I feel like this is super important, because you gotta know what you're playing, you know. An example, so I always do 7th chords. I feel like when you are a beginner though, you're gonna want to learn your open chords. I don't know why, I guess it's easier, but I personally didn't learn open chords till later on. I started out with 7th chords, but it's whatever you want to do. So if you want to start out with open chords, totally fine. I know it's hard for some people to bar. Practice that. That's something you gotta learn, because if you want to do like 7th chords, you're gonna need to know how to bar. And I used to use the excuse of my hand's too small, which I do have a pretty small hand, but that is no excuse. And so I am kind of embarrassed that I even tried using that excuse, and that at the end of the day, it only hurts me to make excuses, nobody else. So if you have a small hand, don't get discouraged. I could do it. My hands are pretty small. You definitely can do it. Just keep trying. It's all about like muscle, and like when I first started playing guitar, it really hurt my hand right here, and I actually have a big muscle right here now, which is really weird, but it hurt there, and then also hurt my wrist. And you're gonna gain certain muscles, and like you're just gonna get used to it, so don't worry. But back to the chord thing. So learn open chords. This is a G, C. See, like, you gotta know the names of them and stuff, right? That's my point. And then here's like 7th chords. This one is D major 7. And then when I said learn the voicing, what I mean by that is know that this is the root, this is the 5th, this is the 7th, and this is the 3rd. Root 5, 7, 3. I don't know why I didn't mention this first, but the most important thing, in my opinion, when you're a beginner, is to learn the notes on the 5th and 6th strings. So learn the names of them. You literally, this will make things so much easier. Like, I can't even describe. And I know it probably sounds difficult to like memorize all the names, but trust me, you will get it. Just practice every single day. You can do it like this: E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A sharp, B, blah 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 blah, all the way to E, and then you want to go down again. So E, E flat, D, D flat, C, B, B flat, A flat, G, G flat, F, E. So do that on the E string and the A string. Go up and down chromatically to memorize the notes. One reason that is very helpful is that when you want to play movable chord shapes, by movable, basically, if you don't know what that means, it means that fuck, how do I explain it? It's like self-explanatory. You can move the shape. So if it's like major shape, I could just move the shape up. If I wanted to play a D major 7, it would be this shape, and if I wanted to play an F major 7, I just move the shape up to F. That's why you gotta know the notes and the names of the notes, so you can move the shapes. Got it? Okay, great. I only remember learning scales as one of the first things I've learned on guitar. So like major scale, 2 octave, like all the way up to here. I would just say start with a major scale in one position, so you can learn it just like this one, and then down. Always go up and down. Also, the scale shapes are movable too, so that's super easy. This is why I love guitar. Everything is just shapes, moving shapes. You just learn one shape here, and then you can move it up to there, and it's the same exact thing. And that's what I like about guitar, because I never had that thing with the viola. It's a little different, but this instrument, once you get that mental stuff down, like the mental work of like, oh, memorize this, that, everything is just so much easier. And with that being said, also learn arpeggio. Arpeggios are the root, the 3rd, the 5th, and then the 7th if you want to do 7th arpeggios. And basically there's also certain shapes for that. So that's the arpeggio. That's just one shape. Like I said, there's a bunch of shapes. They're all different. They can all pretty much be applied to any note. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, write these things down and then look them up, and just work on like one of these things a day, depending on how much you want to practice. When you learn chords and chord progressions and everything like that, I know what it was like to be a beginner. It wasn't that long ago. I barely just started playing guitar like a little more than a year ago. But transitioning from like one chord to the next was such a challenge at first. That's called planting your fingers. You gotta plant them all at the same time. It's kind of a struggle at first when you're like, can't really do it all at once, but you want to plant them. If I wanted to play a chord like this, when I was beginning on guitar, I would be more like this. Yep, got it. Yeah, that takes way too much time, and when you're playing like chord progressions or with other people or just whatever, you don't have that much time to put your fingers down. So practice planting them on. And once you got that, practice transitioning from one chord to the next. So if I was like 1, like, I don't know, it doesn't even matter where you're playing, but the actual physical like doing of changing chords can be kind of hard, you know. So a tip for practicing more is keep your guitar case open, or like put your guitar somewhere out in the open where you can just grab it and play, because if it's like locked away in your closet, you're probably not gonna open it. You're probably not gonna go get your guitar out of the closet, open the case, tune it, play, you know what I mean? That's just too much work. Like, we're lazy people by nature, I think. Or maybe it's just me, I don't know. I definitely like to have it out so that it's easily accessible to just practice for a little bit and then put it back. I feel like I'm a guitar teacher right now. It's kind of funny. Yeah, don't feel like you have to get all of this stuff down soon, because it's not gonna happen. It definitely takes time. Just practice a little bit every day. You're gonna get somewhere. To be honest, that's all I have to say. I don't know what else to tell you. Chords, scales, arpeggios. It's just a lot of memorizing, to be honest. It's like, it's not that hard to play this actual thing. It's just hard to know what you're playing because it's a lot to think about. I feel like the actual physical part of playing guitar, it's really not that difficult. Obviously, there's things you can do to improve your sound. Yeah. It's super fun. Now I'm gonna go practice my arpeggios right now. Thanks for watching. Thanks for everything.